All right, welcome to the 2020 Online Candidate Forum, produced by the Hampton Roads Black Caucus, the New Journaling Guide, and Positive Vibes Incorporated Consulting. This is our schedule. This upcoming weeks, we have a couple of great forums that are going to happen tonight. But tonight, we're in P-Town. We're highly and heavily grounded in Portsmouth, Virginia, the historic Portsmouth, Virginia, where we're going to be meeting and interviewing some school board candidates. We have from the Hampton Roads Black Caucus a consultant, Mary Jane Addison, and we also have I Am Onyx. We're going to begin with a quick moment of silence, and then we're going to have our salute to the American flag. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you can please enjoy a moment of silence so we can pray for the city of Portsmouth.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we've hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we've watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets regular, the most bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun, let us march on till victory is won, is won.
All right. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, so now we have Mary Addison, a consultant for the Hampton Roads Black Caucus, and I Am Onyx. Ladies, if you can introduce yourselves and tell us what you're doing and tell us what you'll be doing tonight as well. Miss Addison?
Thank you. As Seiko said, my name is Mary Addison. I am an independent consultant for the Hampton Roads Black Caucus, and I will be presenting questions to the candidates tonight that is provided by the Hampton Roads Black Caucus. And I also send out the questions to the candidates, receive those questions, and I send them a questionnaire, which is the questions that's compiled by the members. I collect those questions back and present them back to the Hampton Roads Black Caucus, and they vet those questions and they're used to determine whom they're going to endorse. So when you receive the questionnaire as a candidate, it's imperative that you fill that questionnaire out and return that back to the Hampton Roads Black Caucus so that you can be considered in the endorsement process. So you should receive those emails. Please don't ignore them. We cannot vote for you if you don't complete that questionnaire and return it back in the timely manner. So what I do is I provide that information and vet that information and send the endorsements to HRBC, and they make that decision and they take that vote, and then they will let you all know who they endorse from that process.
Right. And from the beautiful city of Portsmouth, I am Onyx.
Hi, I am Onyx, and I am a social activist. And I am also the vice president of the Portsmouth chapter of the NAACP. I sit on the board of directors for the Alliance of Safe Traffic Stops out of Washington, D.C., where we work with prosecutors across the country in ways on how to prosecute cops that break the law. I also am a small business owner, and I have a television show called The Onyx Effect that comes on Sky 4 every Sunday and Monday at 1 a.m. I have a radio show that comes on Red Ink Radio Live every Thursday at 8 p.m., and that's called The OD. But most importantly, I am a resident of Portsmouth, Virginia, and I am here representing myself and the great city of Portsmouth, Virginia, and I'll be answering some questions from the perspective of the community. Asking some questions. I won't be answering them, but I'll be asking some questions from the perspective of the community.
Great. And we have with us three of the candidates who are running for the City of Portsmouth School Board. Vernon Tillich, Barry Randall, and Arnett McSwain. How are you guys doing tonight?
I am well.
All right, 30 seconds. Introduce yourself. Ms. McSwain, start. 30 seconds. Introduce yourself. All right, Mr. Tillich, 30 seconds. Introduce yourself.
I'm Arnett D. Love McSwain, born and raised in Portsmouth, Virginia. I am the chaplain of American Legion Post 190. I'm a minister at a local church. I'm a veteran of about 9 years in the United States Army, deputy sheriff. I'm retired from the city of Chesapeake, an author, business owner, radio show host. I have a Master of Arts in Management and Leadership, a Master of Arts in Religion, Bachelor of Criminal Justice, and Social Science in Management. I've been a secretary for a number of community organizations, and my campaign is just really based on making sure that we can provide a competitive salary for our teachers and our staff. Want to explore every avenue to do that, accommodate the staff, the students, and the families of Portsmouth. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Tillich, 30 seconds. You have 30 seconds to introduce yourself. Our timekeeper is Mr. Conrad Chesviner. So Conrad, let everybody know when their time is up. Mr. Tillich, 30 seconds, introduce yourself.
All right. Well, my name is Vernon Tillich. I'm a lifelong resident of the city of Portsmouth. I am a proud graduate of Churchland High School, and I am a graduate of Old Dominion University, where I obtained my Bachelor of Science degree in Political Science. My work experience includes working in the Virginia General Assembly as a legislative assistant, as well as in the United States Congress, where I worked on researching, drafting, and submitting legislation to help some of Virginia and America's most vulnerable families.
Beautiful. And Mr. Randall, introduce yourself. You have 30 seconds.
I'm Barry R. Randall, also known as the People's Pastor, lifelong resident here in the city of Portsmouth, graduate of Woodrow Wilson High School. Some 23 years later, I just graduated from Thomas Nelson Community College. I am a local activist, community activist. I serve as the president of Brighton Prentice Park Civic League. I'm also a local pastor. I started out in Portsmouth Public Schools as an instructional assistant, a bus driver, and now I am an attendant.
Okay, great. Well, Miss Addison, we're going to pull you off the stage for the moment. Miss I Am Onyx, you have the first few questions. We'll have Miss McSwain answer first, Mr. Tillich, and then Mr. Randall will be third. Conrad will be keeping time.
Okay, thank you. So all of you are running for school board. My first question to you is, why is the school board necessary?
Who first?
Everybody don't go all at once.
I thought it was an order. Are we going in order?
I thought we were going in order.
Oh,
I don't.
yeah, I thought.
The school board is necessary to kind of bring a stability and protection to our staff as well as our students. You want to make sure that the students are getting a good quality education, and you want to make sure that you have great staff to implement and to impart that great quality education. And just like anything else, you need checks and balances. The staff need protection, the students need protection. So I believe the school board is there to make sure that the Virginia Department of Education is doing what it's supposed to do.
All right. Well, school boards are definitely necessary because school boards are the elected bodies that create the policies and the procedures in which the school divisions run. And we want to ensure that our students as well as our staff are provided not only a good education, but also have a good work environment. Our school board also vote on raises for our teachers, as well as services and programs that are offered to our children within the school division based on the guidelines that are given to them by the Virginia General Assembly.
Thank you. I think we lost Arnett. So I will move on to the next question. The next question is, thank you for that answer. And both of you gave me answers as it pertains to the political reasons around school boards being necessary. My next questions to you are, what responsibilities do school board members have regarding advocacy?
I'll go first on that one. So as far as advocacy, I mean, school board members have the responsibility of advocating for the students. We have a lot of students who may have learning disabilities. We have students that come from poverty, as well as other life challenges, whether it's mental health, economics, or whatever that difficulty may be. As school board members, we have the obligation to stand up and to stand in the gap, and so that we can provide the assistance that these children need, so we can ensure they have a bright, prosperous future. There are so many challenges that plague students here in the city of Portsmouth, and as a school board member, I will definitely stand up for each and every challenge. There is no one division that is the same to another. And so in Portsmouth, like I said, we have a lot of challenges. It's poverty. We have mental health. We have so many different learning disabilities. And as a school board member, you are obligated to ensure that all children receive proper resources.
Thank you.
Okay. I would like to also add to that a different kind of spin. While I do agree that the school board is there to advocate for the students, we need to be mindful that there are a myriad of resources out there for all of our students, those that are at a disadvantage, those that have developmental disabilities, or whatever their situations are. But I also would like to just add that as a school board member, I think that is also necessary to ensure that they are also advocating for equitable pay for the staff, equitable treatment, respect. Because in this line of field of work, there are no mental health days or mental health breaks, and what you go through trying to teach a student in 7.5 hours, it takes a lot of wear and tear on your bodies. And when you're not getting the respect or the help from the parents at home, I think the school board needs to make sure that the staff have the help that they need.
Thank you. Arnett?
One thing we have to remember that we are working for children. I mean, they may be in their teens, but they're still children. We have to make this, we have to advocate to ensure that they're getting the best education. That's first and foremost. We have children that's graduating, they cannot put together a subject-verb agreement agreeing sentence. And we have to make sure that they're learning. We can't just take care of the logistics of things. So my thing is to advocate for the teachers to have flexibility in the learning, the teaching and the learning of our students. We have to make sure that what we're doing is effective for them, for their future. We can't just take care of the budget and take care of different kind of programs. We have to make sure these programs are effective. So we have to advocate for the things that they need, because if they can skate through it, that's what they're going to do. But we have to make sure we give them a quality level of education, and we got to advocate for the best education.
Thank you all for answering that question. My next question is a two-part question. What is your vision for education in this community, and how does the COVID-19 pandemic affect that vision?
I'll go first with this one. I believe that the community and school models kind of reversed. I believe that we need the educators out into the community. COVID-19 pandemic has proven that, and it has also proven that it works. When you have educators, and I would like to give a big shout out to all of just not only the educators, but also our city government officials in reference to parks and recreation. Everybody put all hands on deck, and they came together for these children. Even in our housing communities, there were places where you could go get food, where you could go get help, and what have you. So I think that we need to be focused on making sure that we have all hands on deck into the community, that we go where the children are in a safe possible way, because I know we still need to practice social distancing. But however, there are schools that are open after hours, no children involved, allowed to come. But in our school division, you can come up there as a parent so that they can give you some training on how to work the computers.
Thank you. Next.
My vision for education in this community is all stakeholders involved has to take care of their responsibility, to include the parents. I feel like if the parents were more involved, this transition to online learning would have been a lot more easier, because they would have been in position to take up their position to help teach their children from home. So it was new to everybody, but if you had already been active in your child's education, it would have been a little bit more easier. So I want to include the parents. I want the parents to know that they are welcome back into the school system. Their ideals count, their comments count, their concerns matter. So I want them to know that. So, and I also want to say that the children have to have a mindset that they want to get everything that they can. They want to succeed. They want to do better in life, better than what their parents done. And I plan to just put that in their minds.
Thank you.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful.
All
Great
right,
answers, great questions. Go ahead.
all right. My vision for education in the community is pretty simple. My vision is to ensure that all children in the city of Portsmouth receive the same quality education. One of my platforms is to expand career and technical education. A lot of our kids have been taught, I know I was taught, that college was the main way to success. And we all know that to not be true. And so I want to expand the career and technical education programs here in the city, because as we know, plumbers and electricians and construction workers are part of the backbone that make this country. And we can teach our children that there are alternative ways to achieving success. And COVID-19 has affected some things here in this city. It has taken us out of the traditional way of learning, but that is good, because it's also going to make way for us to prepare our students for the jobs of the future, such as cybersecurity and such as biological warfare, which COVID-19, I mean, hey, who's to say that won't be something in the future? And so we have an opportunity to learn from this COVID-19 and to bring a sense of community back to education.
Thank you.
All right. Hey, we have a question from Randy Williams. He's actually the owner of Tally and Twine. And I guess he wanted to ask a quick question. So candidates, why did you decide to run?
I'll go first. So I decided to run because as a millennial, I understand many of the obstacles and challenges that the children of this generation are faced with. I have worked in the Virginia General Assembly and in the United States Congress, and I have seen and I understand how laws are passed, and I understand where the money comes from for education. And so I'm running because we need to be able to fill in the gaps. And Portsmouth, as you all know, has been left behind in so many different ways. We've been the laughing stock of this state for a very long time. And it's time that we get people elected that understand the process of how to get legislation done and that can use their relationships that they already have in the General Assembly and in Congress to make Portsmouth not only the number one in the region, but one of the top school divisions in the Commonwealth.
I decided to run because it was time for me to give back. When I was growing up in Portsmouth, it was so much poured into my life that I felt obligated to come back and give. So I was educated and I was experienced, and I wanted to come back and share what I've been through and what our youth can do with them. I want to make sure that they understand that there are so many different avenues for success, and it is important that they get out of Portsmouth and see everything. Some people don't ever leave their city. Some people never leave their city. I want our kids to know that they can do anything and be anything as long as they get the knowledge that they need and take advantage of what is going on in the school system as far as their coursework. Just absorb everything so that you can apply it to your life later. It was my obligation to give back. Personally, I get nothing out of it but satisfaction in knowing that these kids are going to do way better than what I've done.
I decided to run. Actually, a lot of people were kind of disappointed because they expected me to run for mayor again or city council. However, looking at our city in a total compass, I see that we're in trouble. And I kind of like to look at the school board and the city council from a house standpoint. You don't put a roof on a house first. You build the foundation. Our children are our foundation. And I decided to run for school board because, for one, I'm community. I'm invested into my community. There's nothing happening in the city of Portsmouth that I'm not involved in or have my hands in at some point. And I just believe that in order for us to turn our city around, we need to make sure that we're investing in our children, that we're supporting our staff so that we can retain good educators. I have great educators that imparted into my life, and it hurts me when I see many of them leave to go to other cities. So that is why I ran for school board, because I'm vested in the community. I am community, and I want to get our city back on the right foot.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Onyx, thank you for your questions. I know you're going to be coming back to ask the same for the upcoming candidates. We're going to switch out our host. We had I Am Onyx who was asking the questions. Great question by Tally and Twine owners, Randy Williams. By the way, do any of you own a Tally and Twine watch?
No, but I think I need to.
All right, Tally and Twine watches are built nice watches right there in the city of Portsmouth. Yeah. So we're going to get a chance to highlight them a little later. Right now, I'd like to bring to the stage Ms. Mary Addison from MJ Addison LLC. She'll be handling the next set of questions. Mary?
Thank you, Seiko. Okay. Start with my first question, and I will address this to Ms. McSwain. You'll go first, and then I'll call out next. So here's the question. When the COVID-19 pandemic passes and the world opens up again, how would you propose safely reopening schools in a way that will be powered by the physical, mental, and emotional health of the well-being of every child and every teacher? Okay.
We still want to take proper precautions. So we still want to return back to school in our masks. We still want to make sure we're sanitized. So we're going to have the schools clean professionally. We're going to have the teachers come in and teach virtually for 1 week, wearing their masks, getting their temperatures taken. And then the second week, we'll have the students come in wearing their masks, temperatures taken, and taking the proper precautions that we need. If the teacher is ill, we send them home on sick leave. The students be isolated if their temperature is high, and to have them picked up just as a precaution. And then on by the third week, I believe that we're going to have with taking off the mask and practicing cleanliness inside the area where we're going to be, and still social distancing until we're all comfortable for that.
Thank you. Mr. Tillich?
Thank you.
Yes. Well, first of all, I would not consider reopening schools until I have heard from medical experts and scientists to ensure that we are officially safe to reopen. And once we are given the thumbs up to do so, I will make sure that my vote is centered around the guidelines set forth by the CDC. I want to ensure that our kids not only practice social distancing as well as required to wear masks, and also the cleanliness of our buildings. But we also need to explore services such as mental health, as well as behavioral counseling for our students who have been, they've been sent home now for about 10 months or so. And so a lot has changed with their mental state and as well as their behavior. And a lot of kids use school as a source of getting away from their home life due to things that might be plaguing them at home. And so they've been at home dealing with those situations. And so in order to get back, we need to ensure they are mentally stable before we can start learning again.
Thank you. Mr. Orenda?
Yes, this is a very loaded question. I do believe so many opinions are centered around opening up the schools or when they're going to be back open. Is of my opinion, that the school should be open to some degree during the warm months, and then we're out during the cold months, during flu season. However, there is no scientific data that suggests that COVID-19 is better in the heat or the winter. So I would agree that we need to make sure that we have scientific data from medical professionals before we would even consider opening the schools. But I also think there's another caveat to that we need to look at. And I can attest to this as an attendance officer right now. We have children that are not in school because their parents don't feel comfortable working with the computer. And they have told me my child will be back in school when school opens up. So we got to look at that. So it's not just an easy thing to say, hey, we're looking out for the safety, but we also have to look out for the mental safety of our children as well.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Okay, so next question is, how would you support economically disadvantaged families and children with disabilities in procuring the necessary resources in education, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic? Mr. Tillich, you can go first.
All right. So as we all know, virtual learning is now in effect, and a lot of our students do not have access to internet due to families not being able to afford it. And so, we need to provide our students with mobile hotspots. And if we can't do mobile hotspots, we need to use our school buses as platforms to provide Wi-Fi to our neighborhoods. We can park a school bus in a neighborhood every day. That would not only allow kids to access internet, but that would also allow our bus drivers to stay employed as well and to keep a job. We also need to explore ways, and as far as printers and printing off, because I know I'm one that I like to do work hands-on, and some of our kids don't have those resources either. So we need to look at ways of having a print center for our students that choose to do work that way. And also we need to look at food. I know there are school buses that are delivering food now to our students, but a lot of kids, that's how they're able to eat, is by coming to school to get those 2 hot meals a day.
Thank you. Ms. McSwain?
Yes, during the COVID-19 pandemic, it may be necessary to reassign some of our staff, some of the support staff. So after the COVID-19 has began and we started this new school year, I would have had some additions to the contracts to let the staff know that they will be maybe repositioned or reassigned. And I will use that staff with the truancy officer and the counselors to identify these families and to assist the families in getting the needs that they, the things that they need. We do pay for spots right now for the youth. But whatever they need, I will use these extra employees to provide for them. And we will use the same funds after the COVID-19 and the same donations to continue to provide for them.
Thank you. Mr. Randall?
Yes, I would pretty much continue to support the superintendent and what he's doing. The plan that he's already have in place, it is working. Many of our citizens may not know, but your children can have in-person school if they have a disability. We have children that comes to school right now at least 2 days out of a week if they are at a disadvantage. So I would just continue to entrust the capable staff to do what they're doing under the leadership of Dr. Bracy concerning the economically disadvantaged families.
Thank you. My next question is, Black students in the U.S. are subject to disciplinary actions at rates much higher than their white counterparts. Those disciplinary actions put students at higher risk for negative life outcomes, including involvement in the criminal justice systems. What policies would you propose to target racial disparities in education and psychological biases? Ms. McSwain. Ms. McSwain.
Like me to go?
Okay. We'll move to Mr. Randall, please.
Yes, I think, and this may not necessarily be a popular answer, but unfortunately, with me working in the schools, I've seen this time and time again. I think what we really need to push, and if you all would just allow me a moment just to share.
Racial disparities in education can be talked about policies governing cultural awareness. Know your students, know their surroundings, know where they come from. Cultural diversity classes can assist a teacher in further explanation of a particular subject. Cultural diversity classes for the students can make them, ma'am?
Uh-oh. I think we lost her. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Randall. We'll let her finish when she comes back, please.
Okay, as I was stating, I think accountability really needs to come to the forefront. Too often times, yes, our children, especially people of color, they do have a higher suspension rate and what have you. But I do believe that we need to get back to understanding accountability. A lot of times, a lot of children that disrupt classes, they don't have the support that they need at home. And I think that if we can hold these parents accountable, you would see less involvement. A teacher only has 7.5 hours a day to instruct and to impart. And a lot of our educators and support staff, they went to school and took out loans to teach and to instruct, not to be a counselor, not to be a mentor, not to be a referee. And when you are teaching and all day you have to say, stop, no, you can't go to the bathroom, you've already been before, stop, no, sit down, stop doing that, keep your hands to yourself, stop, no. That takes a toll. If we teach accountability to our parents, I think you will see a decline.
Thank you. Mr. Tillich.
Yes. So I would propose that the school board be provided a disparity study on an annual basis. And inside that disparity study, it will include the race and gender of the students that receive disciplinary action from that school year. That way, as a board, we can see if the disciplinary action that is given to one race is given to other races. And from that, we will be able to build our conclusions on how we can address these issues. Because if a child is doing behavior A, they need to be given the same consequences as another child that's doing behavior A. And that way we can set a foundation and a tone going forward, and so that we can bring down these suspensions that are way much higher based on for African-American students, especially African-American males. So I would propose during the disparity study that will be given to the board on an annual basis.
Thank you. I see that Ms. McSwain is back. If we can give her at least 30 more seconds to complete your answer, please.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Like I said, cultural awareness courses for the students and for the staff will help. Will be one of my proposed policies that I would want to target racial disparities in education and psychological bias. And I will also, during any incidents, I will also remove the race from any reports that need to go up. Instead, I would just use the student number and the name. I would even have a system where you can just look up any. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we have a question from our audience. How would you ensure that the MOU between the police department and the school does not allow for the SRO's involvement in issues that are not a matter of local, state, or federal law? Okay, Ms. McNeil, Ms. McSwain, would you like to take that?
I'm sorry, ma'am. I was reading this. Could you repeat your question again? Because this one is different.
But this is the one that's posted up. I was reading that one. How would you ensure that the MOU between the police department and the schools does not allow for SRO's involvement in issues that are not a matter of local, state, or federal law?
Okay. Well, I honestly would want the school board to have their own police department. That's how I would ensure it. And it would be, they would have a chief, they would have officers in there, and they would all be certified, but they would run a department just for the school system. And they would be able to determine with counselors for the students, because you have to call in the youth workers for them, and they'll be able to determine what and how they can charge a student, or what kind of punishment they can use. I mean, I really feel that we should have a separate police department for the youth. The school resource officers, to me, I think they should be there all day. And I know ours kind of like go from one school to another school. So I think that if we had a department and their main focus was our students, it would be good. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Randall?
I think that first and foremost, this is really is a hard situation, because we want our teachers to feel safe, our staff to feel safe. We want the students to be safe. However, because of qualified immunity, that is why a lot of people advocate for the police to be in the schools, because even if you have just security officers in the school, the problem with that is they can still be sued, or they can still kind of get in trouble just from just breaking up fights. Even our administrators and things like that, just breaking up fights. We've seen this happen. So that's why I say we get back to teaching accountability to our parents and guardians. And then we invest more into mental health programs, because everyone that doesn't have an outward disability doesn't mean that they don't have a mental health issue. To some degree, many of us, and I say us, many of us deal with mental health issues all the time. So I believe if we really pour into programs like that and bring back accountability to parents, a lot of this we wouldn't see.
Thank you. Mr. Tillich?
Yeah, so as far as the understanding between the police department and the schools are concerned, I know that a while back there was a movement to get armed police officers inside of schools. I do not support that. I do think that the school board, as well as our security guards, they need to have a level of understanding, and also, as Mr. Randall pointed out, accountability as well for our students and parents. We do not want to teach our kids, we want to teach them that you can't act a certain way, but at the same time, we don't want to have the police involved either on situations that do not need a police. Our goal is to keep children out of prison, hence why we're trying to end the school to prison pipeline. And so to have police involved over situations that are minute, that these are children, and we need to understand these are children. And as a school division, we should be able to work these out with security guards, not police officers.
Thank you. Let's see, one more question. Okay. Improving race relations is central to the work of each community. Cities and regions could do more to promote racial equity. What policies would you implement to address racial inequities within your community? Mr. Randall.
Well, I think cultural competencies is necessary. I think a lot of sensitivity, as you can see here recently with the Washington Redskins, we automatically assume that our Black and Brown students or people in general are the only ones that are offended because of certain names. And as you can see, our Native American brothers and sisters were offended because of the word Redskin. So I think that if we really deal with a lot of cultural competencies and cultural sensitivity training, just to let people know that we're not the only ones that can be offended. You're not the only one that can be offended, that we need to be thoughtful and mindful of one another.
Thank you. Mr. Tillich?
Yes, we do need to create policies that are friendly and that create a sense of tolerance amongst all diverse groups. And I also would like to go a step further as far as I know a couple of years ago, back in 2015, school board did a disparity study as far as involving contracts and procurement among businesses that do business with the city. And I think that it's time that we revisit that subject and look at how we can expand incorporating more minority and women-owned businesses in the contract and procurement of the school division. And we also, as I mentioned earlier, we need to focus on creating policies that embody all types of people, whether it's race, gender, sexual orientation. We need to include that so that no one in our school division feels as if they are being treated differently or discriminated against.
Thank you. Ms. McSwain? Ms. McSwain? She has a delay. Ms. McSwain, can you hear me? Okay. Okay, so we have a question from our viewer, Tony Goodwin. What are your thoughts on what percentage of the overall budget should go to the classroom instruction? Let's start with Mr. Randall with that.
Oh, wow. I would say at least 40%. I think, again, that goes back to what I shared with you all earlier. You know, you can't put a roof onto a house without first building the foundation. And the foundation is only as strong as how deep that you dig. If you want a great, strong, sturdy foundation, you have to dig deep. So it's the same thing. We have to dig deep in our pockets. Listen, if you do not use the money to educate these children, you will use the money to incarcerate them on the back end.
Thank you. Mr. Tillich?
Yes. Now, as far as the money going into for classroom instruction, I mean, that could also include teachers because that's part of classroom instruction as well. So I'm not going to really give a figure, but I will say that I do think that a good portion of the budget should go straight into the classroom, considering it is an educational institution. Our teachers right now, a lot of them are coming out of pocket to pay for school supplies, and that should not be accepted here in the 21st century, living in America, where a teacher would have to come out of pocket. That should be taken care of by the school division. So I do think that we need to reassess where our money is going. And yes,
For some reason I was muted. Can you hear me now?
Just one moment, please. Yes, just one moment.
So yes, more money needs to be directed into our classrooms for school supplies, for teacher salaries, for technology, and for new textbooks and computers. Right now,
hello?
Right now, a lot of our computers and technology in the city is outdated. So I would support a proposal of increasing the amount of the budget that goes into the classroom instruction.
Thank you.
The host,
Ms. McSwain?
can you hear me? The host, they say the host is muting my mic. Hello?
Okay, yes, we can hear you. The question
Hello?
now, yeah, hello, we can hear you. Can you hear me? Can you hear
Hello?
me? Okay, we're having some technical difficulties here. All right, Ms. McSwain, can
Hello?
you hear me?
I think she's having too much of a delay to really respond to what's happening right now.
I think so too. Okay.
It's unfortunate, but we may have to remove Miss McSwain because of the delay, because we can't determine exactly how long it is. Let's try it again. Miss McSwain, can you answer the question?
Okay.
All right. So we had another question from one of the viewers. Let's go with that, and then maybe we can work this situation out.
Okay. So the question, we'll start with Mr. Randall. What do you feel that the priority is when it comes to school board budgets? What's the priority?
The answer to that is first and foremost the last question that was just asked by mayoral candidate Tony Goodwin. That's the priority. You have to put it in the classroom because listen, just like Mr. Tillich said, in this day and time, we have teachers that are already underpaid and sometimes feel underappreciated. And for them to have to go into their pockets to do what they need to do is unnecessary. So that's the priority. We need to make sure that we're funding. Again, you have to dig deep to make sure that you invest in these children. Listen, a quality education is a right to all citizens. You know, it shouldn't be based upon your demographics, where you live, your ethnicity. It should be fair across the board for everyone. And the priority is first and foremost the classroom. And then second to that would be for retention, to keep great staff.
Thank you. Mr. Tillich.
All right, I will actually agree with that with Mr. Randall. We are an educational institution, and so top priority should be our students. And so to ensure that our students are receiving the best quality education, we need to invest in that. And that means investing in the classroom. That means investing in our teachers and retaining our staff. I was a school bus driver during my time in college before I started working in the General Assembly. So I understand how a lot of the staff, you pour your heart into what you do because you love it. But it's sometimes it's hard to do it because you're not able to make ends meet every month. And so we need to invest in our classrooms, but also invest in retaining great staff. Because I will say the Portsmouth Public Schools has some of the best teachers and staff on this side of heaven. So we need to ensure that our staff are taken care of as well as our students.
Thank you. Ms. Arnett, are you back with us?
I am back with you.
Okay, we're asking the question, what do you feel the top priority should be when it comes to the school board budgets?
The top priority to me should be the instructional process of the school. I mean, the learning, what goes into what they're learning. We should be put into technical trades. I really feel like we should go back into home ec, catering. We need to budget that stuff, things that they're going to be able to use to continue in life, even if they don't go to college. That's where the priority of the budget should go. And then, you know, we want to make sure we pay our teachers as well, pay our staff well. And that's how I feel like the budget should be broken down. Our students, our staff, and then anything else that we need.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have another question from DeAndre Barnes, Portsmouth City Council. What are your thoughts on the renaming of the 3 schools in Portsmouth? Let's go with you, Ms. McSwain.
Okay, the renaming of the three schools. Honestly, I feel that we have to take each school individually. I don't think it should all be grouped into saying that it was a racial issue, or how these individuals that these schools are named after, how they at how they behaved, because we have to also take in consideration the time frame and what was going on, what was the norm during that time. And so I think that all of that needs to be researched. We shouldn't just say this person was racist, this person was racist, this person was racist. We need to research individually. Now, being that I'm a Manor graduate, Manor has my vote. But other than that, I think that we need to make sure that we research each individual, because I mean, if that's the way that they were living during that time, if that was the norm, we should take that into consideration.
Thank you.
Yes.
Rich?
Yes, as far as the renaming of the schools, I do believe that each school should be researched based on the name of the school. But I'm actually in favor of naming schools after neighborhoods. We need to maybe get away from naming it after individuals because, as you all know, no man is perfect. And we're always going to find some type of flaw in an individual. And we need to go back to naming schools after neighborhoods. Manor was named after, um, a neighborhood, Manor, Hodges Manor. I attended Port Norfolk Elementary, and Port Norfolk was closed, and we were moved to John Tyler. Well, John Tyler is in the same vicinity. Let's go back to naming them after neighborhoods. And so that's my position.
Thank you. Mr. Randall?
As an elected official, I'm looking to be hired by the employer, which are the parents and the students, pretty much. I think that if you go into a place of business and you have a problem with the business, something that you don't like, you take it up with the owner. I think that this school board that we have should allow the superintendent to, or instruct rather the superintendent to send out notices and get the parents, the citizens, the stakeholders, the taxpayers input on this, because regardless to what we come up with as far as our proof, what the facts are, you're still going to have some people dissatisfied. I think that each citizens need to, all the parents, all 14,000 plus students should be polled. The parents, the guardians should be polled, and we should listen to what the employer has to say since we have a problem with their business.
Ms. McSwain?
Yes, ma'am. Could you repeat the question? I'm sorry, I can't see it.
Okay. I'm sorry, that's on me. Okay, so at this point, I have one more thing that I want you all to do. I'm going to give you 1 minute to just give me your closing thoughts, and we're going to start with Ms. McSwain. You got 1 minute. Give us your closing thoughts, and we're going to wrap that up for you. Okay, so go ahead, Ms. McSwain.
Yes. All right, thank you. I just want to say that it's time for our students and our families to see someone in position that actually relays the fact that they care about what's going on and that they care for the students. They have empathy for the students and the families and the staff. It's time for someone to stand up for our teachers and say, hey, they're not being paid enough. Being third in the vicinity in the Hampton Roads area, it's not enough. It's not good enough. We're losing good teachers. Our teachers was leaving this year. And then why would they leave? Because they're not being paid enough. They can go to 2 other cities and get paid. We need someone to say that we care enough to find the money to pay these teachers, to make sure that they not only take care of our kids, but they can go home and take care of their own children. We need someone to say that I know you don't want to go to college, so I'm going to help provide a technical school so that you can get a trade and still come out and be self-sufficient. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Tillich?
Yes. It says, can you hear me? It says I've been muted. Can you hear me? Oh, it says I'm muted. My bad. Yes, my name is Vernon Tillich, and I am running for a seat for the Portsmouth City School Board. I am asking for the vote of the citizens of Portsmouth because we need somebody that's going to stand up and fight for our children. Me being a millennial, I'm not that far removed from graduating in 2012 from Churchland High School. And so I do understand many of the obstacles and the challenges that many of the children of this generation are faced with. And we need somebody that's going to speak to that and somebody that's going to stand up and fight, not only for our children, but for our staff. Because not only have I been a student in the city of Portsmouth, but I've also been a staff member for 4 years in the school division. And I've also have worked on the legislative side. So I understand how we can get the resources that we need to expand and to grow Portsmouth, not only on a regional level, but to be number one in the Commonwealth. Portsmouth is a city full of minority students, and we must pour into our students to ensure that these kids in this city receive the same education as the kids in Northern Virginia.
Thank you. Mr. Randall.
And I'm asking you all to hire me to serve you, the citizens of Portsmouth, on the Portsmouth City School Board. I am number one on the ballot. I would like to close posing a thought from a question from the New Journal and Guide. Many people from my ethnicity, they died fighting, trying to get a free, equitable education. Although college isn't for everybody, I do believe the first 12 years of your education is necessary for everybody. We have people that have died fighting to get what you and I can get every day that is free. We had people from our community had to sit outside the classroom window and listen in on what was being taught to other children, but not so in this 2020 season. So I'm asking you all to help us retain good educators, good support staff. I've been with the district as an instructional assistant, bus driver, and an attendance officer, and I'm asking for your vote of confidence because education is free for all.
Thank you. Back to you, Seiko.
All right. Thank you, Mary. Thank you, Mary. Wow, that was beautiful question and answer period. I want to recognize our timekeeper, Mr. Conrad Chesventer. He works with me with the Beach Brothers Show. Talk about the Beach Brothers Show, Conrad. Just very quickly about the Beach Brothers Show, and then we're going to do a quick sponsor break, and then we'll bring on our next candidates. So tell us very quickly about the Beach Brothers Show.
Beach Brothers Show is the best place around to have a quasi mix of both politics and business. We like to have a mix of the best business topics of the day and the best political topics of the day. So we're going to have the best political guests and the best business guests in Hampton Roads. So watch the Beach Brothers Show so we can all get informed.
All right. Great. And we have coming back with us, I Am Onyx. I Am Onyx, if you can hold for just a second, we're going to do a quick commercial break, and then we'll get started with more questions from I Am Onyx. tallyandtwine.com. Yes, that's tallyandtwine.com, where you can find beautiful watches for men and for women, made here in the United States, made here in the great state of Virginia, made in Portsmouth, Virginia. That's right, made in America, made in Virginia, and made in Portsmouth. tallyandtwine.com. Great watches for the men. Look at these beautiful watches. Aren't they nice, masculine, really attractive? And these sexy watches for our beautiful ladies. tallyandtwine.com. This is my favorite watch. This is the watch I personally own. tallyandtwine.com. Made in Virginia, made in America. It's time for you to get a high quality watch from Tally and Twine. Right. Speaking of a high quality watch, here's my Tally and Twine watch. Look, they're made in Portsmouth, Virginia. So if you don't have a Tally and Twine watch, you definitely need to pick one up as soon as possible. Celebrate P-Town, celebrate Portsmouth, Virginia. They employ people from Portsmouth, Virginia. So it's a Portsmouth employer, a Virginia provider, tallyandtwine.com. We have with us on the screen some of our great candidates. So Miss I Am Onyx, we're going to let you take over again and ask these questions. We're going to bring back our timekeeper, Mr. Conrad Chesventer, and it's time to go. Let's give our candidates a quick moment to introduce themselves. We'll start with Miss Hines. Miss Hines, introduce yourself. 30 seconds.
Hi, good evening, everybody. My name is Sarah Duncan Hines. I am a 18-year educator. I am the mother of a 9-year-old who currently attends Portsmouth Public Schools, and I have been on the school board for 6 years, and so I'm in the process of going for re-election for another 4. During what we've been able to accomplish in the past 6 years is a lot, considering where we started from, and I would appreciate a time to do just a little bit more to ensure quality education for our students and setting our city up for economic prosperity in the future. Thank you.
All right. Why don't we take this moment to introduce Mr. Gary Bunting. Gary, introduce yourself. Okay. So we'll go to Miss Allen. Miss Allen, if you can introduce yourself very quickly.
Good evening. I'm Angelia Allen currently, and I'm incumbent running for re-election to the Portsmouth Public School Board. 2016, I asked the citizens of Portsmouth to hire me. Now is the time for my evaluation. So I'm hoping that the citizens realize what I've put on the table for Portsmouth Public Schools and rehire me to serve another 4 years on our school board. I got things done and I want to get more done. So please consider me for Portsmouth Public School Board. I am Angelia Allen.
All right, and now Miss Atkinson, another one of the incumbents. Introduce yourself, ma'am.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lakeisha Khloe Atkinson. I am a product of Portsmouth Public Schools, went to Woodrow Wilson High School, graduated Bachelor's of Science from Norfolk State University. I currently have 3 children that attend Portsmouth Public Schools. And again, I currently serve on the school board, so I am up for re-election. So stand by and hear my platform and some answers to the questions from the citizens. And that's how you can learn more about me, and like me on Facebook too.
All right. And now Miss Thomas, please introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. I'm popping in from a class, but I just wanted to say my name is Yolanda Edmonds Thomas. I am a newcomer running for Portsmouth Public School Board, and I am a native of Portsmouth, graduate from IC Norcom High School. I am the mother of 2 sons currently in Portsmouth Public Schools, and I am running to make sure that we can make our schools the best and provide the best quality education to our kids to take Portsmouth Public Schools to the next level. Thank you, and please follow me on Facebook, or you can visit my website at yolandaethomas.com. Thank you.
All right, and Mr. Bunting, let's hear from you, Mr. Bunting, Mr. Gary Bunting.
Yes, I am a newcomer. This is my first experience with any political election. I'm a native of Portsmouth, lived here all my life, with the exception of a few years that my parents dragged me across to Chesapeake, but other than that, I've lived in Portsmouth all my life. Went to Portsmouth Public Schools for the first 7 years, and then, as I say, went to Chesapeake to public schools. My primary platform is that I'd like to improve our career and technical education program, and also create magnet schools within the school system. So that's
right,
my primary accomplishment.
Thank you. All right, so now I am Onyx. Take over with your heavy question.
I am a social activist. Also the vice president of the Portsmouth chapter of the NAACP, among many other things. But I am here as a citizen of Portsmouth representing myself. I grew up here and I'm a graduate of IC Norcom High School. So I came up through the Portsmouth public school system. My first question for you guys is, why are school boards necessary? And we'll start with Ms. Hines.
Thank you. Okay, I'm unmuted. School boards are necessary simply because it is stated in the city charter that we have a school board. Now, whether they're appointed or elected, we went through the process in the 90s to get them elected. But the main piece of what a school board does is they hire and fire and evaluate the superintendent. We put together a budget that the superintendent and his staff evaluate. And so we are the ones that are responsible for answering the questions and pushing public policy and pushing public needs through the school system, through the processes. As we are not educators, we all come from varied backgrounds. It is not our job to be involved in the everyday ongoings of what happens in the school. That's what we have the superintendent for. It is our job to advocate and to negotiate for budgets and for priorities to make sure that we have a school system that is quality and equitable for everybody and that is state of the art.
Thank you. Ms. Allen, same question. Did you guys, Ms. Allen, same question?
She's talking. Is she muted?
Okay, I was muted. I concur with what my colleague has said, but I also want to add to it that the other part of a school board is necessary to advocate for public education as well. Not only that, our schools have to be run somewhat like a business, and as any business, you need to make sure we're fiscally responsible. That's a main job of a school board, to make sure that we're fiscally responsible with the money that our taxpayers are paying into.
Thank you. I'm going to move on to the next question. So, Ms. Atkinson, this question, if you can answer this, what responsibilities do board members have regarding advocacy?
As a board member and an elected body, I think we have the responsibility to be an advocate for all. And when I say all, I mean an advocate for students, teachers, the staff. So advocacy should be embodied in us. We can't just be biased towards one sector, one group, one race. Like I said, advocacy is the school board member, and we should be an advocate for everyone, staff included.
Thank you. Mr. Bunting, same question.
Well, I believe that the school board needs to be an advocate for, obviously, for improve our. There are some things in other parts of the country that have been done that were different teaching styles, different methods. I think we need to look at some of those different types of methods and find some out-of-the-box solutions to improve our performance.
Thank you. Ms. Thomas?
Yes.
Same question.
Thank you. That's a great question. Yes, I think school board members have a huge responsibility towards advocacy. We have to advocate for all the children in our school district. And I think that's a really important reason why we have to have diversity and good representation even on our school board. All of our children don't have the type of support that they might need at home. And I always say, as an elected school board member, I would want to advocate for your child the way I advocate for my own children. We all want the best for our kids, and it's important to have school board members represented that also want the best for your kids as well.
Thank you. Now, Ms. Allen?
Hi, the responsibility of, school board members do have a responsibility to advocate. We have to advocate for public education first and foremost. We have too many students that are going to the private education sector, and we need to get them back. Portsmouth Public Schools can provide a quality education for our students. And anytime that we lose students to private school sectors, that takes a hit against our school division. And we want to make sure that we have families that understand that they can come to Portsmouth and get a quality education for their families. Schools are very important when people are looking to move to the cities. And when someone is looking to move to the city, we need to advocate for Portsmouth Public Schools, not the narrative that's being shared, what it actually is. We have excellent teachers who provide great education to our students, and we must advocate for that. Not only that, but for funding from our state and federal government. We have to advocate for more funding.
Thank you. And that's somebody else. Ms. Hines?
For advocacy, we also need to advocate, yes, with city council, but also with our state legislatures. Our state legislatures are the ones that make the curricular decisions. They're the ones that make the majority of our funding decisions. And so while we always seemingly in Portsmouth are having conversations about money with our city council, we also need to look at the state and what the state has taken away from us and what the state can give us and what the state is mandating for us to do, whether it is a funded or an unfunded mandate. So we need to be strong advocates for our division. We need to be strong advocates for our fiscal responsibilities, because there are so many mandates that how do you get them all accomplished? We have 7.5 hours in a classroom with students, and I'm not exactly sure how we get everything accomplished, but we do. And so our advocacy has to start, yes, with local, but we also need to look at the state and what can the state chip in for us so that we don't have to keep going to the city and asking for extensions.
Thank you. And my last question for you is a two-part question. What is your vision for education in this community? And how does the COVID-19 pandemic affect that? And I'm going to start with Mr. Bunting.
My vision for education in this community would be to do our best to give every student the quality education that they deserve. As I said previously, I think improving career and technical education so that we can train our students for the jobs, the high-paying jobs that employers have jobs that are in demand. I think magnet schools could give us better education for kids that have interest in those specific areas. The COVID-19 pandemic, obviously we've got to work through that. We've got to work through the virtual learning, make sure our teachers are trained in the best methods of virtual learning, and that will help us work through it. And also the kids that are struggling with that, we need to address them.
Thank you. Ms. Thomas?
Thank you. I'm loving the time guy down at the bottom of my screen. He's great. But the vision for education that I always have is when our students walk across the stage at graduation, it's not the end of something. It's called a commencement ceremony. It's the beginning of something. And so for all children as they walk across that stage, so that they are prepared for their next chapter, whatever that chapter may be, whether it is a trade school, whether it is an apprentice program, whether it is a school of art, whether it's Juilliard or some music, or if it is college. My vision for education hasn't changed. It's to prepare them for the next step. And how COVID has impacted that is that it's given students maybe a different way to exceed and excel in school because they have this virtual piece. Some students are excelling with it and some students are struggling with it. But we have to have a flexible enough education system to meet the needs of all of our students, whether we're in COVID or not. And that's just what we need.
Thank you. Ms. Allen?
Yes, my vision for education in this community is to continue building upon what we have now. We want to increase our CTE programs. We want to increase opportunities for virtual learning. COVID is not going anywhere anytime soon, and we have to make sure we have a safe school for our students that have special needs that have to go to our schools. We have to make sure that our staff is safe. We have to make sure that our schools are clean and safe. COVID's not going anywhere, so we have to make sure that we put things in place so that our most vulnerable students have the opportunity to be safe in our schools. But not only that, there's going to be a new way of how we're educating our students. So we may wind up going to virtual high schools more so now than ever. While they're there, they can also virtual college. So we can make sure that we're making as much. I'm looking at the gentleman with the time slot. I want to make sure that we're doing the best possible with the needs that we have and with the resources that we have to make sure that our students are safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Hines?
I've already answered this question. You want me to go again?
Oh, I
Because
said Miss Thomas. No, I thought
I can go again.
I said Miss Thomas earlier, and you went. So I was like, go ahead.
I'm
So you threw me off. I was like, wait a minute, hold on. Okay, so then we'll come back to this topic.
Sorry. You want me to go? Is it me?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
Sorry. So I'm going to speak to this as a mother because I consider all kids my kids, and as a mother, that shapes my vision for education in this community. I want my kids the way I want your kids in Portsmouth Public School to, when they get out of Portsmouth Public Schools, to be confident, well-rounded individuals, ready to take on or tackle whatever it is they need to. So for me, that includes really promoting early education, that pre-K program. And my platform including things such as language immersion for elementary and middle schools, so that our kids can have a global view, not just the local city view, but a global view of the world. And also increasing those areas of STEM, because we know that data is the next frontier, not coding, but data management and data science. So COVID has just made us more innovative. I do agree with Ms. Hines where, it has been some struggles as a parent. Like, some kids get it, some kids don't, but it's going to just take a full village to make that happen for us. So thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Atkinson.
I just want to say that I can only hear Sarah and Yolanda. So if I'm being repetitive to Angelia, I apologize. I guess I'm not a good lip reader as I thought I was. But my vision for education is an equitable school division consisting of wraparound services for everyone. An advanced curriculum where we are challenging our students, for example, magnet program, advanced courses, more CTE courses that focuses on the careers that we see right now and the careers that we see in the future. So preparing our students for life. Also mental health and behavioral health services in the school system, nonprofits in the school, just everyone all together. How has COVID affected this? Although COVID is an unfortunate situation, it allowed us to see that things can happen that we were told that can happen. For example, the state said we didn't have money for technology. Now here's all this money for technology. So I'm happy to say that you get a keyboard, you get an iPad, you get this. So I love that COVID brought about things that we thought can happen, but it happened.
Well, thank you all for answering those questions. I'll kick it back over to Seiko.
Hard questions, and they came with the hard answers. Conrad, I like that. That's working. Now from the Hampton Roads Black Caucus, we're going to bring back Miss Mary Addison. Mary, questions are...
Okay. We'll start the first question. The first question. When the COVID-19 pandemic passes and the world opens up again, how would you propose safely reopening schools in a way that will be powered by the physical, mental, and emotional health and well-being of every child and every teacher? Let's start out with Ms. Atkinson.
Got you. So the school reopening plan I would propose is proactively soliciting RFPs, which is requests for proposals for personal protective equipment. We need to ensure that we have sanitizer stations in the schools. We also need to ensure that sanitizers are in each classroom. I would like to see backup masks on hand too for students or staff that may forget their masks. So just in case. I would like to also have us continue with the plan that we already have. We already are doing the routine cleaning. We have the electrostatic sprayers in the classroom, so that cleaning could continue to take place and expand that out to our buses. Our classroom size doesn't allow much for social distancing, so we can develop a plan for when the students are changing classes to social distance that way. And also each plan should be under the guidance of the CDC and the district health director. So, and also and just one more thing, we also should come up with a plan on how to address if there is a positive COVID resolved by either a teacher or a student. How to address that? Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Hines?
As COVID safely passes, I'm not exactly sure what that's going to look like. I think it's going to be here with us. Hopefully there are vaccines, and maybe we work with the health department and the state legislature to mandate vaccines the same way we have mandated Tdap shots for our sixth graders coming in. We can't mandate a lot, but I think if it is one of those things that we could do, I think it would just make everybody a little safe, feel a little safer, feel a little better. As Khloe said, we have electrostatic machines, not only for our buildings, but for our buses, because our buses are our first form of school that our students get. And so we need to make sure that they are safe and clean for that transport to school. But the piece that needs to be addressed is the social emotional piece, because we do know that some of our students don't have positive places where they are. They don't have positive or strong relationships with adults. And so the first few days of school, it's going to be building that community back, building that family sense back, because I can tell you as a classroom teacher, I have students that shut down and don't want to interact, and I don't know why. And so it's very hard. So getting them back into the routine of being with people is going to be difficult. Thank you, timekeeper card man. I got you.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Bunting. Mr. Bunting, can you hear me? Okay, we're going to move on to Miss Allen.
Hi. Being as I work in healthcare, at my job, we've actually, what I do for a living involves reopening after a COVID outbreak. So I'm looking at it from a healthcare perspective, that we need to make sure that we're including our health department, following the guide of the CDC.
Hoping everybody's hearing me
My
better than
concern
I'm
is
hearing
making sure
them,
that
'cause
we're taking
it's going in and out on
temperatures.
me. I'm not
One of the first
sure.
signs of a possible infection is that you wind up with the temperature. So we need to make sure that we have people on site taking temperatures, asking the questionnaire questions of whether or not you've been exposed to COVID. Then when we're looking at making sure that we bring people back into the classroom, we need to have a plan. What happens if there is a positive test, and we have to find strategic ways on how to social distance as best as possible. We can't go back to the norm of what it is now. We can't go back to the class sizes the way they are now, especially for our smaller children who don't really understand what social distancing is. We have to look at it not only from the perspective of what's happening, how we bring them back to school, but we want to bring them back safely. Thank
you. Ms. Thomas.
Hi, yes, I think all of the candidates have really touched on everything from PPP to following the CDC guidelines to ensuring the social emotional health. So I actually agree with most of them. Actually with all of them. With all of that we need to, one, ensure the logistics is also there with our school. And I know that our school currently does not have the proper ability to properly social distance all of our students. So we need to talk about our backup plans for that. And how do we ensure that we know that with the flu season coming right now, that's an extra layer of caution we're going to need to take. So with that being said, I think also addressing the social and mental needs. One of my biggest concerns as a parent is, our kids aren't in school. So how do our teachers, who are usually the first to report signs of abuse or signs of emotional need, we don't have that right now. So ensuring that we have the proper partnerships with social services, even right now, before we return to school, I think is really important to make sure our students are properly protected, even before we talk about going back to school.
Thank you. Mr. Bunting?
Are you hearing me now?
Yes. Did you hear the question?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
You can hear me?
Yes. We can hear you.
Is this still the question about how would you support economically disadvantaged? I apologize. I'm having a hard time. I'm going to assume first off, I'd say during the, I'm sorry. Okay. I didn't hear. Can you move on? Because I'm having a hard time hearing what's going on.
Okay, we'll catch you on the next question.
I apologize.
No worries. Okay, so the next question is.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that.
How would you support economically disadvantaged families and children with disabilities in procuring the necessary resources in education, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic? Let's start with, we'll go ahead and start with you, Mr. Bunting. Okay, I think he's having some technical difficulties. All right, so Ms. Atkinson.
All right, thank you. So to continue to assist our economically disadvantaged students, we should continue to leave the communication line open with our resources, such as the Portsmouth Redevelopment and Housing Authority. For example, this is where most of our economically disadvantaged students reside. So I did request that the Deputy Executive Director share survey results that they collected with households on how many students have connection to Wi-Fi, how many parents don't have access. So that partnership is important so we can know what we're dealing with and how to be there or supply our children's needs. Also, I just want to say that Portsmouth Public Schools have provided all students with technology devices and hotspots for those who do not have internet access. Also for, and I think this question needs more than 30 seconds because we're talking about economically disadvantaged students and we're talking about children with disabilities. So that's more than 30 seconds. But with the children with disabilities, we have doubled up, sorry, Conrad, we have doubled up on our assistance with them for our visually impaired students. CCTVs were provided, Braille writers. So just continue to trust our department heads and put our opinions in when we can on what we're hearing from our stakeholders. Thank you, Conrad.
Thank you. Ms. Allen.
Yes, I think it's important. I think families will go to resources when when they know that there are resources available to them. You know, continuing to push our message and the availability of resources on our social media. The city has an email blast that we need to make sure that we're involved in making sure that our services that are available in Portsmouth Public Schools are posted there. We have both of our TV stations that are for the city and for the schools, making sure that we're pushing all of our resources out to the public that way, partnering with PRHA, making sure that all of their resources are connected with our resources. Social services it has to be wraparound services. Everyone has to know what everyone else is doing so that we can get that information out to the public. They know resources available, family will come and take part of them. It's our job to make sure that we are connected and push that information until they will, and we available systems and those resources that are available now.
Thank you.
I yield my time.
Thank you. Ms. Hines.
Can you flash the question up just one more time? I want to make sure I hit all aspects of the question. But to consider, thank you, but supporting families from the very beginning, when we got the call on March the 13th, that we were closing school, at least for the next 2 weeks. One of the first questions that I called and asked the superintendent is, how are we going to provide luncheons to our students? Working with students who are food insecure, I know that they leave me on Friday and some of my kids don't eat again until Monday. So continuing the food program as we've done to make sure that that is there. We use CARES Act funds and end of school year funds to purchase technology, to purchase Wi-Fi hotspots, and also to purchase technology to outfit buses so that our buses can go out and provide Wi-Fi in neighborhoods where connectivity issues may be problematic for our students. Students with disabilities, we hope, are being served as best as they can through this virtual platform, but we all know that it is a learning process. And if the disabilities are severe enough, we do have staff within our buildings that can assist and serve those students. Right now, where they actually can go to school and to get the extended services that they need. And just overall in education, we need to make sure that everybody has a safe place to come, has a clean place to come, and has a welcoming place to come so that they can come and be the best person that they can be.
Thank you. Mr. Bunting.
Yes, I think a lot of what everybody said is true. I do believe that, well, I know every student learns differently. Their learning style is different. Some kids are going to struggle with the virtual learning. Some of it's going to be due to their learning styles. Some of it's going to be due to lack of resources, but we need to keep track of, follow every student who's struggling and follow up and find out what the issues are that are causing them to struggle. Is it learning style? Is it lack of resources? If it's a lack of resources, we need to individually make sure that every child gets the resources they need. Obviously, internet, high-speed internet is going to be a primary one. I know we're working on that with the school bus initiative and some other things. That's going to be primary. But if we find out other things that are, especially if there's something that is pervasive among a number of students, we need to address those first. But we need to look at every individual student and find out what they need and make sure they get it.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to move to another question. Black students in the U.S. are subject to disciplinary actions at rates much higher than their white counterparts. Those disciplinary actions put students at higher risk for negative life outcomes, including involvement in the criminal justice systems. What policies would you propose to target racial disparities in education and psychological biases? Let's start with Ms. Hines.
I'm sorry, I'm a writer, so I'm writing it down so I can process it. We talked about different learning styles. I'm a writer. So one of the things I would like to talk about is the disciplinary action. We have been very strategic in how we have pared down our student code of conduct and how we have tried to implement positive behavior intervention strategies. But the other piece I think we need to talk about is character education, why we make the decisions and what ramifications your decisions may have. Just because putting discipline on somebody doesn't mean that they're going to change the action. So we need to talk about the decision-making process to that action. We need to talk about the decision-making action when that action is in progress to actually teach students and teach our students to think through things before they do that initial gut instinct reaction where you can actually try to process. And I know that's difficult for adults, but much less children, but you have a better rate of less occurrences the younger that you start. So actually having them think about that action. But racial disparity and psychological bias is, I'm at the end and I'm sorry.
Thank you. Ms. Allen?
Okay, I'm going to speak very, very quickly. Number one, we need to address the PTSD that our students are having to deal with. Since they're acting out, cry for help. It's not normal for your class to not be with you. They've been killed. It's not normal to deal with the social things that are happening in their homes. We're asking our children to live adult lives even though they're children. So we need more psychologists and social workers in our school to address the bottom line issue of why we're acting out. Sometimes it's not an act out, it's an act out because it's a cry for help. And secondly, I want to make sure that it would behoove us to start to teach conflict resolution. A lot of things can be handled if they learn conflict resolution. We need mediation. We need to teach people how to be able to debate and disagree without going so far to the left that you can't see right. So, I mean, there's opportunities. We need psychologists. We need to deal with PTSD. We need to deal with the social disparities that are causing some of the outbursts that are happening. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Atkinson?
So a lot of our suspensions with Black children are centered around not being able to process their emotions. So it deals a lot with disruptive behavior. So I do propose that we take a look at mindfulness as well as, yoga and meditation for our students. Also, most of those infractions do happen in a classroom, so we can look into some professional development centered around classroom instruction, classroom management, as well as cultural bias and competence training. Also, as a school board, I want to commend my colleagues because suspensions have been reduced in our school system, and we have came up with policies such as PBIS. We also have brought in parent-teacher liaisons, which has been a big help in our school system. So not saying we can't do better. This is a major issue for us. And we also have been taking a look each month at the suspension. So that's one way we're able to see it firsthand.
Thank you. Mr. Bunting.
Yes. This question has a lot of aspects to it, and I guess I looked at one part of it, but I looked at a document called Suspended Progress 2018, which was published by the Legal Aid Justice Center. I believe it's in Richmond, and the data is correct. In U.S. and Virginia and in Portsmouth, Black students are suspended at a much higher rate than white. In Portsmouth, Black students are 18.69% of Black students were suspended and 6.68% of white students, which is a huge disparity. But in order to know the reason for that or whether there's bias, I believe we need to know what the ratio of suspensions to behavioral infractions. And without that data, I think it's hard to know what the cause is. I think we need to look at each school data to find out the cause and try to get to the bottom of it.
Thank you. All right, so let's go to another question. Improving race relations is central to the work of each community. Cities and regions could do more to promote racial equity. What policies would you implement to address racial inequities within your community? We start with Ms. Hines.
Okay. Racial inequalities or inequities within our community, it is paramount that we see people for who they are and for what they can bring to the table. We have to acknowledge that there are people that have different skin tones and that have different perspectives and different ideas that come to the table. And what I look forward to is a time and a place where we can all sit down at the table, regardless of the color of our skin and our backgrounds, and bring our ideas together to come out with one absolutely better idea. It's not about me having an idea or somebody else having an idea and that's the one that wins. It's putting our ideas together and coming up with better things and better ideas and pushing the envelope as far as it goes. As a school board, we have to ensure that racial equity is at the forefront for us because we are a majority minority school division. And so we have to make sure that we do not have any bias, that we do not have teachers that are telling students that they can't do something or that they should be doing this because of who they are and not having those expectations because of that skin tone.
Thank you. Ms. Atkinson?
I'm going to keep this one short and sweet. The city of Portsmouth is damaged regarding the issue of race relations. At this point, we should just bring in a mediator or a PR firm to address the issues and engage the public in a healthy and effective dialogue. So that's my only way right now because we as a community and citizens apparently can't do it. So we need outside help.
Thank you. Ms. Allen?
I believe that as leaders, it is our responsibility to sit down and have the crucial conversations that need to happen around race. We don't have to see eye to eye to work shoulder to shoulder. And at the end of the day, as school board candidates, we want to see our students succeed. So sometimes we have to figure out how to groundwork and listen to one another. There are going to be people who are never going to agree with the other side. It's not okay, but it's going to happen. So I think we need to make sure that we're electing people that can work together even when there's disagreement, but we have to keep the big picture in hand, which is the success of our students. As a school board member and as somebody that's elected in the city of Portsmouth, I'm willing to have a conversation with anyone, but it has to be a respectful conversation. And it has to be a conversation where you're listening to what I'm saying and taking in what I'm saying, because you can't tell me how I feel and I can't tell you how to feel, but I need to be able to listen to your perspective and you listen to mine. Only when we are able to do that is where we're going to be able to move things forward. Once again, we don't have to see eye to eye to work shoulder to shoulder.
Thank you. Mr. Bunting?
You're welcome.
First off, I think we need to focus more on what makes us the same instead of focusing all the time on what makes us different. I think we're more alike than we are different. I absolutely believe that everybody is equal. We're all equal no matter what our skin color. Skin color is a minor difference. We are all the same, basically. I want to improve Portsmouth Public Schools for all students, whether they're black, white, Asian, whatever skin color. I want to improve it. Portsmouth Schools for all students. I feel like education is the great equalizer. Poverty in Portsmouth is the number one issue I believe that we have. And I believe that education in general, and specifically my proposals for career and technical education and magnet schools, would give students the skills they need to get high paying jobs and bring them out of poverty. And I think that would go a long way towards equalization.
Thank you. We have a question from City Councilman running for City Council, DeAndre Barnes. His question is, what are your thoughts on the renaming of the 3 schools in Portsmouth? Okay, we'll start with Ms. Allen.
I don't have an issue with reading the 3 schools. And what I have concern about is the amount of money that it's going to cost to get it done. If we're going to rename the schools, we need to make sure that we have the funding to do it through. I don't want to says one thing in forms that says another. So right now we're dealing with a financial strap that we're going to have in the city of Portsmouth. And it's to me, I want to make sure that we prioritize what it is that we're going to do with the shortfall we're going to have. Not only that, I want to see the students of those 3 schools brought to the table to talk about what's important to them. Right now, the discussion is greatly around the adults that have graduated from those schools are no longer involved in those schools. So the identity, especially of our high school, is wrapped up in those students that are currently there. Again, I have no issue with renaming the schools, but if we're going to do it, we're going to do it properly so that the identity of the new name is carried across. But if we have to have the funding to do it and do it correctly, we're not going to half bake it. We need to do it right.
Thank you. Mr. Bunting, your thoughts?
My personal opinion is that, especially for Wilson High School, it's going to cost a large amount of money to change the school name. My preference would be to leave it the same. I believe that in Portsmouth, Wilson High School has a tradition going back almost 100 years. And I think that's more connected with the name than what Woodrow Wilson himself did. I think that tradition has a lot of meaning to a lot of people in Portsmouth. And the money factor, if we've got enough money to change the name of the school, I feel like we could use that money to improve our education rather than using that money to change the name of the school. As far as the other schools, I'd have to look at each one individually. Rather than making a blanket statement about all 3, I'd prefer to look at each one individually and look at each case individually.
Thank you. Ms. Atkinson?
Where's our school attorney when you need him? Well, no, since I am one of the three on the upcoming school naming committee, I will defer to not answer that question right now because I would definitely want to ask for legal regarding that answer. So I'll defer to the next person.
Thank you. Ms. Hines.
Way to go, Khloe. Great answer, because I was wondering how you were going to answer that one. And I truly wonder how we can answer that one effectively, considering that the committee is going to bring it to the board and we all have to decide. But I just want everybody to understand that I graduated in 1996 and was a product of the consolidation of the schools. Where it was, Craddock closed and they came to Manor, and then Manor was changed to Wilson. And so that is the era in which I grew up. I do want to, if it does happen, do it correctly and get everything, switched and done. But that is going to take a good bit of money, as we have discussed as a board. But as Angelia said, let's talk to the neighborhoods and let's talk to the people that surround those schools, because there is a lot of pride within our schools, especially those elementary schools. We keep hearing from the high school people, and that's fine. Keep sending us your opinions. But for these elementary schools and for these neighborhoods, I grew up with schools in Portsmouth being named after neighborhoods. I mean, Manor High School, Cavalier Manor, Park Manor, Hodges Manor. And so everything kind of rings true. So I'm open to discussion, and the financial piece of this is really going to make the determination for me as to how and when it gets implemented if we do vote to change it.
Thank you. Okay, so one more question. In order to create a culture of diversity and inclusion within the school systems, what initiatives would you implement to promote opportunities among your administrative and instructional staff? Let's start with Ms. Atkinson.
All right, awesome. So I would definitely like to continue to see us foster relationships with our HBCUs, to build a pipeline of qualified candidates to possibly work in Portsmouth Public Schools, continue to participate in job fairs so we can attract qualified candidates to our school system. Also set inclusion goals on hiring without breaking the law or any legal aspect. We also, I just want to say regarding contracting, Portsmouth Public Schools is one of the only school divisions that have a minority women in business enterprise. So what that committee does is we monitor and improve the disparity that's in contracting, because there is a huge disparity in contracting. So I would also like for this committee to continue so we can continue to see that we are reaching and our aspirational goals regarding contracting. So that's one initiative I would like to see, and also keep that pipeline with HBCUs. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bunting?
Well, first off, I'd say that I absolutely believe that everyone should be treated equally, no matter their skin color. In hiring and advancement opportunities, all around, we should all be treated equally. I looked for data to try to find out if we have disparities among our teachers. I couldn't find that data. I did find that 3 of our top administrators are African American, and all of our principals but 1 are African American. So it seems to me that our inclusion policies are doing a good job in that respect. But in terms of the other jobs, I couldn't find the data to find out what issues we might have. And without knowing what the issues are, it's hard to say how to correct those.
Thank you. Ms. Allen?
Well, I think it's important that we grow from within. And I think we have the opportunity to grow the profession of teaching and educating from within our high schools. We have students that want to become teachers, and we want to foster that and get them through college to get them back to Portsmouth Public Schools. So I think from a student perspective, how we start to grow our own. When it comes to administrative perspective, we should be looking within our division before we hire from outside our division. I think our staff want to feel as though that's an opportunity to move up. And if they constantly are seeing people that may be coming in from out, it's a morale buster that there's no place to go, to be stuck. Now, personal is important. You invest in our staff, invest in our children, and then therefore invest in the division as a whole. So we want to make sure that we continue to invest in our staff with personal development. We want to grow our potential bus drivers, our teachers, our next generation of Portsmouth Public School employees from Portsmouth schools. And then we want to make sure staff have the opportunity to move up when they operate.
Okay. I think she's frozen. Okay. Thank you, Ms. Allen. Ms. Hines?
I want to piggyback with what Khloe said. Part of what we can do as a school board is make sure that our businesses that surround us, that support our schools, are coming from the local and coming from minority and women businesses, because that is who our community is made out of, and we should support that. I'm also going to look to my superintendent because, like I said, as far as the daily, everyday stuff, if he tells us, if he sees a problem with disparity, if he initiates a disparity study among our staff, then of course we're going to do what it is that he recommends because he does see a need. So I like the idea of partnering with HBCUs. I also like the idea of partnering with our local, any local college that is supporting education, that we can get our students through, that we can get our staff through, that is local, that is right here, and they're in our community. And so they know the issues and they know the outcomes that we're having within our community and can speak to that instead of looking at national programs that don't know our culture and don't know our issues that we have here.
Thank you. Okay, so now we have a question that's coming from our viewers. And it's from Janari Davis. He says, what is the most important responsibility of a school board? Let's go with Ms. Atkinson.
So Sarah touched on that earlier, but our role as a school board, hire and retain the superintendent, the budget, and also set the code of conduct, as well as policy. Outside of that, as we mentioned earlier, another function that is important is being that advocate and advocacy. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bunting?
I would agree. Obviously, the first primary responsibility of the school board is hiring, retaining, and if necessary, releasing the superintendent, supervising the superintendent, I guess, making sure he's doing the job that we want him to do. And the second would be overseeing the budget. And that's where I believe that I have an ability. My college degree is in accounting, which gives me the ability to look through budgets and analyze budgets. I think that's one of my strong suits. And then obviously is to be an advocate particularly for the students, but for the school employees and the education in general. I think there really is no one there's no one responsibility, but those would be the three.
Thank you. Ms. Hines?
Thank you. It's a great question. And Janari is a wonderful student. He is a junior at IC Norcom High School, and I owe him a round of golf. And so, Janari, we'll get to that. But the most important responsibility of a school member, as everybody has said, is budget, superintendent, passing policy. But I think the other thing that we do innately that we don't think about, and I had to write it down so that I didn't forget, is that we are PR. We are the face of the school system. We are the face of Portsmouth in a sense. So as we talk about what our duty is of a school board, yes, we do those things, but who we are also is just as important. And so we're that advocate, we're that face, we're that voice. We are the voice for the voiceless sometimes. And people come to us, and we are always a board member first. We're told that when we start. So everywhere you go and what you do, you are representing Portsmouth Public Schools and sometimes Portsmouth City, because that's the face and that's the voice that they know. So just as much as we do those other things, PR and customer service is also paramount.
Thank you. Thank you all so much.
Wow, great questions. Great questions. Yeah. Thank you, Mary. Thank you. I am Onyx. I want to say thank you to Ms. Hines and to Ms. Atkinson and to Mr. Bunting and and to Ms. Allen as well. We really appreciate what you're doing for the city of Portsmouth. The fact that you're running to share and to show and do things for this great city speaks volumes. And so we thank you in advance. No matter how things go, we thank you in advance. We thank you in advance. And now I just want to take off our candidates for a moment and just to get some final thoughts. I am Onyx. You're a product of Portsmouth City Public Schools. I won't say that I was a counselor during the time that you were in school. That's true, but oh, that's crazy. That's crazy. Unmute yourself and any last thoughts?
Well, I just want to go ahead and piggyback off of that and say I'm a product of the best Portsmouth Public School, IC Norcom. But one of the things that Conrad, the most amazing timekeeper in the history of timekeeping, I had to keep I was trying to look so business, but every time I looked at Conrad, I was like wanting to bust out laughing because you did such a great job, Conrad. But one of the things that I wanted, one of the things that I want to say that I was mostly that I liked mostly is that most of them seem to be very transparent, even though there were parts where it got a little political. And being in the Portsmouth Time as the way that it is, I understand trying to be politically correct, but right now in Portsmouth, what we need is transparency. So the politically correct thing just doesn't really feel good to me because we've had so much of that in Portsmouth, so much of the status quo, so much of people just trying to say the right things, that those times where they were honest and transparent and clear. And I love that. And I think that's what Portsmouth needs more of. Also with the renaming of the schools, I get because they're running why they couldn't say certain things. And I really love how Lakeisha Atkinson said, hey, listen, I'm on the board. So that's the type of transparency that we need. But also, I like that everybody was transparent or kind of said what they needed to say. But the truth of the matter is that we understand why that's the conversation. And that goes to show to me why we have such an issue in Portsmouth between ethnicities and, just the way that we react. It just seemed like it was almost split down that same vein in the way that people responded or almost trying not to offend anybody. The truth is that at this time in Portsmouth, someone's going to be offended about everything. So the only way to move forward is to go through it and be honest. But I love Conrad's comment behind the scenes about maybe following in the vein of IC Norcom and renaming those schools after some of our local celebrities like LaShawn Merritt or Latasha, Richardson, Calandra Richardson. Yes. So doing those things where we actually are able to honor the people from the communities that serve the community and that we're able to show the real product and promise of being a Portsmouth public school person. I think that is amazing because people don't know that IC Norcom was actually named after a Black man in Norcom, which was one of the principles of IC Norcom, which also promoted economic diversity and empowerment and those type of things. So I think following in that vein in a city that is so much turmoil in so many ways, that gives us another way to kind of bring us together, because who doesn't love an Olympian? And those are two Olympians.
Yeah, quick question. What high school did those Olympians graduate from?
Latasha Norcom and LaShawn Wilson.
Okay. All right. Wow. Interesting. Yeah, salute to those Portsmouth celebrities. I also want to say salute to the truckers. I got to say salute to the truckers.
Why?
My last year teaching in Portsmouth City Public Schools was at Churchland High School. So salute to the truckers. Love y'all. All right. Conrad, any thoughts before we come out of here from a Beach Brothers thought? What do you think about the school board candidates? I love them. I worked in Portsmouth City Public Schools for 13 years. So I love seeing people that have a heart for the city of Portsmouth. I was kind of, I cut my teeth in P-Town. So, any thoughts?
Yeah, you can definitely feel that both the heart and the mind are in sync. that they're in this for the right reasons.
Mhm.
I'm really glad that they have a feel of the community and that they want to put it on the school board. That's a good thing.
I love it. I love it. And Mary, I know that you're not a part of the Hampton Roads Black Caucus, but you're contracted by the Hampton Roads Black Caucus. Can you tell a little bit about the endorsement process? Because some of these candidates that we saw tonight will be endorsed by the Hampton Roads Black Caucus. Can you speak to that process? And after that, ladies and gentlemen, that'll be it. So Onyx, thank you. I know we're going to see you at the City Council Forum. And Conrad, hey, we'll see you. I see you all the time. You're my bro. So thanks, I am Onyx and Conrad. Good seeing you. And Miss Mary, if you can end by just telling about the endorsement process.
Absolutely. At this point in time, all of the candidates should have received a questionnaire from the Hampton Roads Black Caucus. Check your email, check your spam. They've sent out a questionnaire to you. It has a deadline on it. It's imperative that you fill that questionnaire out and submit it back in prior to that deadline. And after that, I'm going to compile all of the answers from the questions that was submitted, and I'm going to compile those in a report to the Hampton Roads Black Caucus. And from those answers, the members of the Hampton Roads Black Caucus will determine who they're going to endorse. So if you want to get that gold stamp of endorsement from Hampton Roads Black Caucus, it's imperative that you fill out that questionnaire and return those questions as soon as possible. Thank you.
Wow, great. So it looks like you're the person to impress.
Chocolate.
All right.
All you have to do is just supply chocolate, and you know what? It's a done deal.
All right. Well, thank you for watching the Hampton Roads Black Caucus's school board online forum for the city of Portsmouth, the beautiful city of Portsmouth, the school system where I cut my teeth and became an educator. I want to say thank you to Portsmouth and good night, everybody. Take care. This show was brought to you by Positive Vibes Incorporated, our consulting services. We do credit fixes. We do tax resolution. We lend private money and debt consolidation. So if you need some of these services, we're waiting here for you. Credit fixes, tax resolutions, private money, and debt consolidation. Make sure you call Positive Vibes Incorporated. Take care.